I love you, baby, and if it's quite alright, I need you, baby. Listen to me, it's Uncle Lou here. Listen, they can cancel non-con games or whatever, out-of-conference games. They can delay the season. They can move the start of the season up. They can cut games out, conference only, whatever, extra bye weeks. Hell, they can move the season to spring. They can do whatever they want to do. Until somebody comes to my house, knocks on my door, and tells me there's no college football season, Uncle Lou's gonna keep on making these preview and prediction videos. Up today, the Clemson Tigers. Yeah, good morning, and that is Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching yet another 2020 college football team season preview and game-by-game prediction. Up today, the Clemson Tigers. Stephen R., you requested this video over on the Uncle Lou Patreon page. I hope you enjoy it. If you'd like to request a team for me to do, click the link in the description of this video that says support the channel and join the Patreon page. That link will take you to the Patreon page. You can get yourself signed up. Let me know what team it is you want to see, and I'll be happy to do it for you. Yeah, thank you, Stephen R. I hope you enjoy today's Clemson Taters video. All right, here we go. Clemson Tigers. Everybody knows it's the same verse. What is it? Different verse, same as the first for Clemson. Ran through the ACC last year with not really any major problems. I struggled once against North Carolina. Texas A&M kept the game close with them, kind of. Texas A&M's defense, I guess, played well in that game, but their offense was never really able to get anything going. I mean, the game was never in doubt, but I guess those were their two most competitive games during the regular season. They won the ACC title game again without a problem, and then, of course, beat Ohio State, right, in the first round of the playoffs before losing to national champion LSU in the title game. That's your recap of the 2019 Clemson season, as if anybody needed one. Dabo Swinney heading into his 12th year now. In the 2010s, this is pretty good. In the 2010s, Clemson was 117-23. That's the third best record all time in any one decade. So hats off to Clemson, Dabo Swinney, and everybody over there for a hell of a 10-year run. The last 5 years clearly been some of the best in Clemson history, but the entire decade Clemson's been a pretty good team. 9 straight 10-plus win seasons, 5 straight trips to the playoffs, 2 national titles during those 5 playoff trips. He's 10-5 bowl record, Dabo Swinney is. Now, keep in mind, that's 15 bowls, right? And you say, well, he's headed into his 12th year. It's been a lot of years where Clemson has played 2 bowl games because of the playoff system, right? So that's his bowl record and playoff record combined, 10-5. 14-1 last year, lost to LSU in a title game, beat Ohio State round 1. People think he's going to Alabama when Nick Saban leaves. I addressed this in the Oregon video. I don't think Dabo Swinney is taking the Alabama job. I do think he'll be the first one they offer it to. I don't think he'll take it. I think Alabama would have had a better chance of getting Dabo Swinney if Dabo Swinney was winning 10, 11, maybe even 12 games a year, but not winning a national title, maybe coming up short in the playoffs, something like that. With 2 national titles, 5 straight trips to the playoff at Clemson, and given the shape that the ACC is in, not much reason for Dabo to leave right now. I think Dabo stays at Clemson and turns down the Alabama job whenever it happens to become available. My bet right now, of course, I told you in the Oregon video, is on Mario Cristobal taking that job. So if you're a Tater, relax. I think you can hang on to Dabo Swinney for a while. Let's take a look at Clemson's recruiting. I like to do this with every team. I take a look at the last 4 recruiting cycles. It gives you a pretty good idea of the overall talent that's on a team. I know there are some 5th-year seniors, and in some cases, even some 6-year seniors, right? You have some recruits that didn't pan out. Maybe they transferred out. You also have some players that transferred in. You have injuries. You have all sorts of things. But generally speaking, you take a look at the last 4 recruiting classes. That'll give you a pretty good idea of the amount of talent available on a team. Start with the most recent, 2020, 3rd in the nation, 1st in the ACC. 2019, 10th in the nation, first in the ACC. 2018, 7th in the nation, first in the ACC. 2017, the worst class in the last 4 years, 16th in the nation, still good for 3rd in the ACC. So 3 straight number 1 classes within the ACC, 3 straight top 10 classes. A lot of talent on Clemson's roster. I know I'm stating the obvious here, but loaded on both sides of the ball with elite future NFL talent. Let's take a look at Clemson's offense. What did they lose from last year? What's coming back? What changes, if any, can we expect to see Clemson offensively for 2020? Well, they get Trevor Lawrence back, so I don't expect to see a whole lot of changes, at least not in terms of philosophy or scheme or play calling or anything like that. Why would you? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Trevor Lawrence was probably the closest thing to NFL ready I've ever seen coming right out of high school. The guy he's just absolutely unbelievable. Started off a little slow last year, sophomore slump type of thing. You see that from time to time. But he finished the season playing his best football. We'll talk about some of those numbers here in a minute. And of course, by some miracle, they were able to talk Travis Etienne in coming back for his senior year. Maybe the best running back in America. You got Najee Harris at Alabama, Chuba Hubbard at Oklahoma State. A few more spread around in some places, but those are 3 of the names you hear a lot of people talking about. I was absolutely shocked that Travis Etienne did not turn pro. Is it possible that Clemson has the best quarterback in America and the best running back in America? Yes, it's very possible. Very possible. Lawrence did struggle early in the year, like I mentioned, but his last 8 games of the year, including the ACC title game in the playoffs, 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And that was sort of the knock on Trevor early in the year. He did have a problem with turnovers the first half of the season. There's no denying that. It's not a knock on Trevor Lawrence. He's the best quarterback in college football, probably, in my opinion. Maybe Justin Fields. You're looking at a 1A, 1B type of situation. Definitely the best pocket passer in college football, Trevor Lawrence. Did struggle a little bit in the beginning of the year. Even Clemson fans were talking about it in the beginning of the year. A lot of turnovers. He got that calmed down, and Clemson cruised last year again before running into the buzzsaw known as LSU. Biggest loss for Clemson? Well, wide receiver, right? T. Higgins off to the NFL, and you say, well, we got Justin Ross and Amari Rodgers coming back. We'll be fine. Unfortunately, Justin Ross out for the year. Sort of a weird situation with an injury there. I guess, was he injured in spring? Wasn't really diagnosed right or correctly, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, the point is a neck issue with Justin Ross, and he's out for the entire season. He was the number 1 wide receiver heading into 2020, so Amari Rodgers will have to step up now, I guess, and fill that role. But you got a ton of talent at the wide receiver position. No one's going to necessarily feel sorry for Clemson in losing Justin Ross. Of course, we feel bad for Justin Ross. You never want to see a player get injured, and especially get injured and have to miss the entire season. But Clemson's loaded at the wide receiver position. Powell, Ladson, Amari Rodgers, like I mentioned, Joseph Ngata. I mean, just absolutely talent all over the field at wide receiver for Clemson. Amari Rodgers probably be the big play guy now with Justin Ross out for the year. Tight end. This is something I was thinking about as I was researching for this video. You think about how good Clemson has been over the last 4, 5, 6 years, however far back you want to go. You can name some really good quarterbacks, right? Deshaun Watson, so on and so forth. Some great wide receivers, some great defensive linemen, linebackers, even some secondary guys. Name a Clemson tight end. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, if you're a Clemson fan, you probably name some. And this, again, it's not a knock on Clemson. They haven't been a team that has utilized a tight end a lot. That might change this year with Braden Galloway. He's back. He was suspended last year, of course, for cheating the year before, which about half Clemson's team was cheating. He just happened to be one of the ones that got tested. I think they tested 20 players, and 3 or 4 of them tested positive for cheating. Imagine had they tested the entire team. Look at the coronavirus, right? What do they tell you? Of course, the number of cases are going up. They're testing more people. Yeah, that's right. And if you would have tested Clemson's entire team after the 2018 season, you would have had a lot more than 3 or 4 positive tests. But you tested 20, 3 or 4 were positive. Braden Galloway was one of them. He had to sit out last year. He'll be back. I think he did play in the playoffs, but he sat out last year. He's back this year. Could be the best tight end Clemson has had in recent memory, right? At least in terms of production, he could have the most productive year at the tight end position that we've seen with Clemson in a while. Offensive line, biggest question mark for Clemson offensively. And it's only a question mark in terms of experience. We looked at the recruiting classes. They got tons of talent along the offensive line, but they do lose 4 starters from last year's line, the left tackle being the only one that returns. You have two other guys that got a lot of playing time last year, Brockhurst and McFadden. So they're not totally green, but point is, chemistry very important along an offensive line. You lose 4 of your starters, you got some work to do there. We'll see how the offensive line looks early in the year compared to like midseason and later in the year. Offensive lines tend to gel over time. I expect that to happen with Clemson this year as well. Over on the defensive side of the ball, most important piece you get back, another modern-day miracle, defensive coordinator Brent Venables. How you've been able to hang on to this guy for so long is unbelievable. He must just not want to be a head coach. I know he's had interest from a lot of schools over the years, and he's chosen to stay with Dabo at Clemson so far, and that continues into 2020. Top 10 total defense he's had at Clemson in each of the last 6 seasons. That's hard to do. Very hard to do. Even teams like, you think of your traditional defensive powerhouses, some SEC teams, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, and the Big Ten. Penn State's had some good defensive teams. Wisconsin had like 4 or 5 shutouts last year, right? Hard to have a top 10 defense 6 seasons in a row, but Clemson has done it. No shortage of talent and NFL stars on this side of the ball either. Now, you lose Isaiah Simmons. There's no replacing him, not just from a talent standpoint, but from really a versatility standpoint. This guy could play 2 or 3 different positions, right? He could play, down on his hand outside linebacker. He could play standing up. He could play sort of a hybrid linebacker safety sort of a spot there. Very dynamic playmaker. He's gone off to the NFL, high draft pick. I don't know if you're going to be able to replace him. Now, like I said, you got plenty of talent. But his skill set was very unique. So I do think Clemson's defense is going to miss Isaiah Simmons. Defensive line, probably the strength of your team in 2020. That's been the case for Clemson several years during this run of top 10 defenses, and I think that'll be the case again in 2020. Now, defensive end Xavier Thomas. This guy has all the talent, all the potential in the world, but to me has been a little bit of a disappointment at Clemson. Now, he's been behind some better guys earlier in his career and been sort of overshadowed by some elite playmakers. But this guy had a lot of expectations coming in, and he's been inconsistent at best, would be maybe the nicest way to put it. I think this is his last year there. I think he's a senior. So it's sort of put up or shut up time for Xavier Thomas. We'll see if he can finally have the breakout year that Clemson fans have sort of been expecting since the minute they signed him. What else do we have? Oh, defensive tackle Tyler Davis. He was all ACC last year as a freshman. So again, Clemson just keeps reloading on the defensive line on defense year after year. And you bring in a couple of freshmen, as good as Clemson's defense is, and it's really good, it's going to be hard to keep these 2 freshmen off the field, Miles Murphy and Brian Breezy. I think both of these guys, I don't know that they'll start week 1 or immediately or whatever, but they will be in the rotation. Coaches rotate a lot of guys in and out now on both sides of the ball. And I just don't see how you keep these 2 guys off the field. They appear to be the real deal. I think both those 2 freshmen will get significant playing time for Clemson this year. You only return 2 starters in your entire back 7 of your defense. So your linebackers and your defensive backs. So if you're looking for a weakness on Clemson's defense, at least on paper, it would be that back 7 inexperienced, right? Again, tons of talent, tons of potential, tons of high 4- and 5-star recruits back there, but unproven at the college level so far. You got to replace a lot of starters in your back 7. James Scalzi, second on the team in tackles last year. Cornerback Brian Kendrick, all ACC last year, helps to have them. A young, inexperienced back 7. That's really the best way to describe Clemson's linebackers and secondary heading into 2020. Outside of those 2 guys I just named, it's going to be maybe a rotation of guys in there, especially early in the season, till you get some of those positions locked down. Nobody, including me, questions the talent in the back 7 of Clemson's defense. But returning 2 out of 7 starters, it's going to be a little bit of a guessing game, at least early in the season. All right, that's the offense and the defense for Clemson for 2020. Now we're going to put the schedule up on the screen and see what they can do. All right, here you go. I just stared into my magic crystal ball, and I am now prepared to give you Clemson's record for 2020, including a list of teams they will beat and the teams they will lose to if they lose to any. No non-conference games. I don't know if has the ACC officially announced this yet. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be playing any non-conference games for the most part. Big Ten has announced this too. I'm not going back and redoing all the videos that I've already done. I'm going to do these videos the same way I've been doing the other ones. I'm going to do the videos with the information I have at the time the video is made. So all the videos I've done prior to this, I've talked about non-conference games. All the videos going forward, I'm going to glaze over the non-conference games because they're not going to be played. The vast majority of them. They're just not. The Big Ten is official on that. I expect all of the conferences to be official on that within the next week or so. So you start off, though, with a conference game, so we will talk about that one. Same team you started the season off with last year. Last year, you kicked off the launch of the ACC network at home against Georgia Tech. This year, you kick things off with Georgia Tech again, but on the road this time at Bobby Dodd. This will be on a Thursday night. Win. I do think Georgia Tech is heading in the right direction under Jeff Collins, but he's just in year 2 of a total turnaround. You got to remember they had Paul Johnson there for a decade who ran the triple option offense. The players that you recruit to run the triple option do not fit in any other type of offense. They don't. So you got to turn that roster offensively completely over. That can't be done in a year or two. Tech will be a little bit better this year, I think, than they were last year. Nowhere near good enough yet to compete with Clemson. You'll get an easy win week 1 on the road. Week 2, you have another conference game. This one's at home. This one's against Louisville. I think Louisville has potential to be a surprise team this year. Not a surprise team in that they could win the ACC or challenge for a playoff berth. But since Lamar Jackson left, Louisville has sort of gone unnoticed. They've been pretty bad. They were better last year than the year before, but still not good or great. I think they take another step or two forward this year. I like their coaching staff. They may be positioned to become the second or third best team in the SEC over the next couple of years. North Carolina is recruiting really well, and you always have Miami and Florida State sort of lingering in the background. Either one of those two teams, I think, could wake up at any time and actually challenge Clemson here pretty soon. We'll see. But I like the way, I like the direction at least Louisville is headed. Just can't pick them to beat you. You're at home. As much as I like them, I don't see it happening. You're 2-0. Now, Akron is scheduled after that. You're probably not going to play that game. If you do, you'll win it. But I'm just moving. I'm not going to spend any time talking about it because chances are it's not going to be played. Then you got another home game against Virginia. Virginia's got a pretty good defense, but their entire offense is gone from last year. Bryce Perkins. If you watched Virginia at all last year, Bryce Perkins was a lot of fun to watch, but he was a one-man band. They had nothing offensively outside of him. Now he's gone. Their defense will hit you. They run around. They fly to the ball. Their defense actually is kind of fun to watch. I'm a Georgia fan. We have to play them week 1 this year. Well, until they cancel the non-con games. So I've been looking a lot at Virginia, and I like what they have defensively. But offensively, I just don't think they can compete with any of the elite teams in college football. Clemson is definitely an elite team. I think you beat Virginia. And you got back-to-back road games against Boston College and FSU. And the Boston College game is on the road on a Friday night. And you know what they say, at least what I say. And you go back and look, this bears out. Beware the Friday night road game. When you're not losing to Boston College. It would be fun to say that you were. I mean, you lost on the road to Syracuse on a Friday night a couple of years ago. So we've seen these things happen. I think Pitt too, maybe. Anyway, doesn't matter. I don't like where Boston College is right now. They don't have the talent to compete even on a Friday. It really doesn't matter what day of the week. You could play them on the Lord's Day. It really wouldn't matter. You're going to beat Boston College on the road on a Friday. Then you got to play at Florida State. Florida State's another team that I think is going to be headed in the right direction starting this year. They replaced Taggart with a coach that knows what he's doing. It was addition by subtraction. Just getting rid of Taggart was an improvement, regardless of who you brought in. And I like Norvell. I think he'll get them turned around. The problem is Florida State's got huge issues on the offensive line, and Taggart never signed a quarterback, so they're still stuck with Blackman down there. They can't compete with you. It's always tough to play back-to-back road games, no matter what conference you're in, even against 2 average to below average teams here. Never easy to do, but I don't see you losing to Florida State. I got you winning on the road in Tallahassee. Then you have back-to-back home games against NC State and Syracuse. I think you beat both of those teams. NC State is a typical ACC team. What do I mean by that? they're a 5 or 6 win team. Now, they might win 7 or 8 games because they're going to play a bunch of other 5 and 6 win teams in the ACC. You got about 8 or 9 teams in the ACC that are exactly the same. They're 5, 6 win teams talent-wise. Literally, the only difference between them is the helmets that they're wearing. Now, sometimes those 5 and 6 win teams get to 7 or 8 wins. How? By beating the other 5 and 6 win teams. I mean, somebody's got to win these games when these teams play. This particular case, it's going to be Clemson. You'll beat NC State. You're also going to beat Syracuse at home. I like Syracuse's head coach, Dino Babers. I might have gotten a little bit too high on him a couple of years ago when they had the 10-win season. I still think he's a good coach, an above-average coach. Is he a great coach? I don't, probably not. Is he going to beat a good team once every couple of years and you don't see coming? Probably. Don't think it'll be Clemson this year. Not with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Clemson is going to be it's going to take a special game by a very talented team to beat Clemson this year. Syracuse ain't that team. You win. Bye week, and then the road game at Notre Dame, which technically is a non-con game, and I'm not getting into the whole Notre Dame should join a conference thing. I did that the other day. The ACC has basically come out and said Notre Dame can play as many ACC teams this year as they want to fill their schedule. That's what they've said. So, of course, Notre Dame plays 5 or 6 ACC teams a year anyway because of the agreement they have with the ACC. Of course, they're in the ACC in basketball, but not in football. But they agreed to play 5 or 6 ACC teams a year. Now all the conferences are going to conference-only games. What is Notre Dame going to do? Well, don't worry, Notre Dame, ACC here to the rescue again for you with a life raft for you. They're going to let you play as many ACC teams as you want. They'll probably even let you pick the team so you can pick the 3 or 4 worst ones, add them to the 5 or 6 you're already playing, and you're good to go. But you host Clemson. Now, this is clearly Clemson's best chance all year for a loss, in my opinion. At least this is the best team they play. It's a road game late in the year. We don't know. Forget coronavirus for a second. Lots of teams are banged up late in the year, just over the regular course of playing a season. If you want Clemson to lose this year, if you're one of these people who just hates Clemson and you're looking for a way for them to lose, this is the game. I've already done the Notre Dame preview, so if you've seen it, you know where I'm headed here. I do think this has the potential to be a pretty good game. I do think Notre Dame is a good team. I picked Notre Dame to go 10-2 with a loss to Clemson. I think Clemson goes into South Bend and gets a big win on the road against Notre Dame. You would be playing Citadel the following week. That's most likely being scrapped because it's a non-con. If you did play them, though, you would beat them. And then you close things out on the road at Wake Forest and then home against South Carolina. That's 50-50. They may end up doing something to try to save some of these in-state rivalry games. I don't know. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to tell you, you'll beat South Carolina if you play them. So let's look at the Wake Forest game, your last ACC game of the year. It's on the road. Problem with Wake Forest, they're a decent team with a decent coach, but their best player is now playing quarterback for the University of Georgia. So, unfortunately for them, that means they're not beating Clemson. They don't have a chance. Clemson is undefeated in the regular season yet again. Possible trip-up games for Clemson if you're really looking for one. Notre Dame, Florida State. How much improvement can Mike Norvell do at Florida State in 1 year? I don't think that much because of the offensive line and the quarterback issues. That's the problem with Florida State. Yes, the coaching was terrible under Taggart. Yes, it's Taggart's fault for not going out and signing another quarterback. But Mike Norvell's got to play the hand he's dealt when he gets there, and it's not a very good hand right now. I do think Mike Norvell is worth an extra win or two over what Florida State had last year, but not a win over Clemson. But if you're looking for a stumble somewhere, Florida State is the second of back-to-back road games. That's always tough, right? Maybe they sneak up on them. Maybe NC State at home the following week. Maybe Clemson beats Florida State. Maybe it's really close. Right? Maybe Florida State almost pulls the upset. Clemson wins last minute or something. They have a hard time getting refocused the following week. Maybe NC State. Maybe Notre Dame. Maybe Louisville's 100 times better than even I think they will be. I guess it's possible that any one of those things could happen, but it's not likely enough for me to predict it in this video. So I've got Clemson going something and somewhere between 9-0 and 12-0, depending on how many, if any, non-conference games they play this year. There you go. Clemson Taters undefeated in the regular season once again and will most likely cruise to the ACC championship game no matter who they face from the other division. And they'll be headed to a 6th straight playoff in my humble opinion. All right, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I upload college football videos almost every single day of the year. Some of them are even watchable. I don't know about this one. Let me know down below, and have a good morning.